What if the royal crowns of Britain could speak? What hidden truths, scandals, and legends would echo from their golden arches? For centuries, the monarchy of Britain has been more than a mere political institution. It has been a theatre of ambition, betrayal, passion, and power. Behind the glittering coronations and solemn ceremonies lies a world of untold secrets, stories rarely whispered, and legacies that shaped the very heart of the nation. Welcome to Legends of Britain. In today's journey, we uncover the untold secrets of British kings and queens. These are not just tales of crowns and sceptres, but stories of intrigue, of shadowy chambers where decisions changed the course of history, and of rulers whose private lives shaped public destinies. Prepare yourself, for this is not the monarchy you learned about in school. This is history unveiled, the kings and queens of Britain as you've never seen them before. The story of Britain's monarchy begins not with splendor, but with survival. In the early centuries, before the crown of England had even taken its modern shape, tribal kings and warrior chieftains ruled over fractured lands. Their power came not from divine right, but from the strength of their sword and the loyalty of their men. It was in these turbulent beginnings that myths took root. The legend of King Arthur, for instance, while steeped in mystery, reflects the yearning for a leader who could unite a divided land. Though historians debate Arthur's existence, his story symbolizes the dream of one true king of Britain, an image that centuries of monarchs would later seek to embody. By the time William the Conqueror claimed the throne in 1066, Britain's monarchy was no longer just about ruling territory, it was about consolidating identity. With the Norman conquest came not only castles and feudal order but also the seeds of dynastic monarchy. The crown became a symbol of continuity, binding rulers to the land and the people in ways that extended far beyond mere governance. Yet, even in these early centuries, shadows lurked. Behind the grandeur of the medieval court were whispers of betrayal, poisoned chalices, and power struggles within families that should have been bound by blood. Kings rose to power not simply through inheritance, but often by eliminating rivals, even brothers, cousins, and children who posed a threat. The origins of the monarchy, then, are not just stories of noble duty. They are tales of survival in a world where to wear the crown was both the highest honor and the gravest danger. As Britain evolved, so too did its rulers. Some monarchs were figureheads, others visionaries, and some tyrants whose names still echo with infamy. The crown was no longer just a symbol of inheritance, it was a weapon of influence, a beacon of legitimacy, and sometimes a curse that consumed those who wore it. Consider the Plantagenets, whose reign stretched over 3 centuries. Under their rule, England grew into a formidable medieval power, but their dynasty was plagued by civil wars, betrayals, and rival claims. Edward I earned the title Hammer of the Scots, yet his conquests came at the price of resentment and rebellion. Edward II, on the other hand, fell victim to his own weaknesses, despised by barons and ultimately deposed in one of the most scandalous overthrows in English history. His fate, a king humiliated, imprisoned, and murdered, reminds us that the crown was never a guarantee of safety. Then came the Tudors, perhaps Britain's most iconic dynasty. The rise of Henry VII after the bloody Wars of the Roses marked the beginning of a new age. He turned a fractured kingdom into a stable monarchy, carefully crafting an image of royal authority. But it was his son, Henry VIII, who changed Britain forever. Henry VIII's break with the Catholic Church to secure his divorce from Catherine of Aragon was not just a personal scandal, it was a revolution. With one stroke, he created the Church of England, reshaping religion, politics, and society. Behind the spectacle of his 6 wives lies the story of a monarch consumed by desire, insecurity, and the unyielding need for a male heir. His decision altered the spiritual fabric of Britain, a legacy still felt today. Elizabeth I, his daughter, carried the crown into its golden age. The Virgin Queen, shrewd and charismatic, outwitted rivals at home and abroad. But even she lived with secrets, her love for Robert Dudley, her precarious position as a woman ruling in a man's world, and the constant fear of assassination. Her reign gave England Shakespeare, global exploration, and victory against the Spanish Armada. Yet it also revealed the cost of solitary power. Elizabeth died childless, leaving behind a dynasty but no heir of her own blood. The rise of British kings and queens was not linear, it was a tide of triumph and tragedy, brilliance and brutality. Their turning points shaped not only the monarchy but also the soul of Britain itself. Wait, they could rival the grandest of every monarchy has its breaking point, moments worthy of power and secrecy erupts in public spectacle. For Britain, these climaxes often unfolded in ways so dramatic Shakespearean tragedies. Compromise. Take Charles I, whose belief in divine right clashed with Parliament. His refusal to plunge the kingdom into civil war. For the first time in British history, a king was tried and executed by his own people. His beheading in 1649 sent shockwaves through Europe. What secrets must have filled his mind as he stepped onto the scaffold? A king, stripped of power, condemned by those who once swore loyalty. His death revealed a terrifying truth: even monarchs could be held accountable. Centuries later, the scandals of the monarchy would take a different form. George III, remembered for losing the American colonies, lived with the hidden torment of mental illness. For decades, his condition was concealed, his erratic behavior explained away, while ministers quietly ruled in his stead. Behind the walls of Windsor, the king's struggle was a carefully guarded secret, one that raised questions about the fragility of monarchy itself. And then, in more modern times, Edward VIII abandoned the throne for love. His decision to abdicate in 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson was cloaked in secrecy until the very end. Newspapers whispered, politicians fretted, and the nation was stunned. It was a climax unlike any other, not of blood and battle, but of choice. Edward gave up the crown, not for power or war, but for the woman he loved. In that moment, Britain learned that even kings could be prisoners of the heart. These climactic tales remind us that the monarchy has always been more than ceremonies and tradition. It is a living institution, shaped by human flaws, forbidden loves, political upheavals, and dangerous secrets. At its peak, the crown is dazzling; at its breaking point, it is brutally exposed. The monarchy has survived invasions, revolutions, civil wars, and personal scandals. Yet, through every storm, it has adapted. That is perhaps its greatest secret: survival not through unshakable strength, but through constant reinvention. After the execution of Charles I, Britain briefly became a republic under Oliver Cromwell. For a time, it seemed the crown had fallen forever. But the monarchy returned, restored under Charles II, who brought with him not only a thirst for power but a zest for life. The Restoration Court became notorious for its excesses, mistresses, and whispered secrets, but it also re-established the monarchy as a cultural centerpiece. From that point on, kings and queens became symbols as much as rulers. They presided over the rise of parliamentary democracy, empire, and industrial might. They stood as figureheads while Britain expanded to the farthest reaches of the globe. But this new role brought a paradox. While the crown glittered on the world stage, its power behind closed doors quietly diminished. Queen Victoria embodied this paradox. She ruled over the largest empire in history, yet in her private letters and diaries she revealed vulnerability, grief, and passion. Her mourning for Prince Albert became a national spectacle, shaping the image of a queen not only as sovereign but as a woman, a widow, and a symbol of endurance. And so, the legacy of Britain's kings and queens is twofold. They are both icons and humans. They represent the continuity of a nation, but also the fragility of those who wear the crown. No monarchy in the world is wrapped in as many myths and legends as Britain's. From Arthurian tales of sword and stone to whispered conspiracies within Buckingham Palace, the line between fact and fantasy has always been blurred. The myth of Richard the Lionheart paints him as a noble crusader, but in truth he spent little time in England, preferring battles abroad. Queen Elizabeth I was called the Virgin Queen, yet rumors of secret romances persisted throughout her reign. Henry VIII is remembered for his 6 wives, yet few recall his keen intellect, musical talent, and obsession with legacy. Even today, myths surround the modern monarchy. The secrecy of royal finances, the private tensions of royal marriages, and the fascination with their personal lives create a veil that few can pierce. Perhaps this is the true secret: the monarchy thrives because it is both visible and mysterious. It stands in plain sight, yet always just out of reach. In Britain, myths are not flaws of history, they are part of it. They give the crown its aura, its romance, and its timeless appeal. Without myths, monarchy would be nothing more than politics. With them, it becomes legend. And so we end our journey through the untold secrets of British kings and queens. Behind every crown lies a story, behind every ceremony a hidden truth, and behind every ruler a human heart, flawed, ambitious, fragile. The monarchy of Britain is not merely a chain of names and dates. It is a living story of power, passion, and survival. It is a reminder that history is not written in stone, but in whispers, scandals, and secrets that shape nations. As we close today's chapter, ask yourself, what secrets are still locked away in royal archives, waiting to be discovered? What truths might never be told? And what legends will Britain's future kings and queens leave behind? Thank you for joining us on Legends of Britain. If you enjoyed this journey through the untold past, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow history lovers, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to Legends of Britain for more cinematic explorations of history's greatest stories. Until next time, remember, the crown is not just a symbol of power. It is a keeper of secrets.